Hello and welcome to Chat UTD. My reaction to a really poor game at Villa Park, a very boring game where United avoided embarrassment, didn't get beat, but offered nothing really going the other way apart from a counter attack near the end and a Bruno free kick, um, indicating really that when it really comes to it and we need to get a result like we did today, we have to revert back to Solskjaer style football, which is what today was really. Digging in, hoping for a moment on the break or an individual player doing something special, as Bruno did when he hit the bar from the free kick. Villa were poor. Their quality was non-existent. Their set piece delivery was shockingly bad. They got into some quite promising positions out wide in particular, and the delivery was awful. I've not really seen much of Villa, I have to say, and I don't know what they're like most weeks, but on the face of that, it looks like Emery's done an incredible job to get them into the Champions League, because they were the better team, but you could argue we're there for the taking with Lindelof at right back, Johnny Evans and Maguire starting the game, Eriksen and Mainu in the middle of the park. Maybe the Bayern Munich game took it out of Villa, I don't know. But anyway, I'm not going to talk too long about Aston Villa. I'm not really that bothered about them. I think if you'd have said before Thursday we'll get a point at Porto and we'll get a point at Villa, you could argue they're not bad results. But we've showcased that we either can play really quite expansive football and score goals, but we can't keep it out at the other end like against Porto. We don't seem to get that balance right. If we attack and we play well, we're really vulnerable defensively. Or today, we shut up shop and we basically played for a draw by the look of it, and as I say, hoping for a moment, but we offered nothing going forward. If you look at that as a structural kind of like attacking performance, there was nothing. There was no passing through lines, there was no build up, there was no strategy behind how we were going to attack and try and break Villa down. And that's my understanding, is that's what Ineos want to see, is that they want to see a manager who can start to implement a style of play. And today was all about basically batten down the hatches and not get embarrassed. And you know what? Sometimes you have to do that. So maybe they forgive him on this one and go, okay, we understand why you did that. But that performance, although we got the result, will not, I don't think, make Ineos go, oh right, okay, that's given us something to think about in Ten Hag's favour. It depends what they're thinking. It depends what they're thinking before this, really, doesn't it? This won't have. It's not made it worse, but I don't think he's made it significantly better either for Ten Hag. A lot's been made of his team selection because he started Evans and Maguire. It's all perspective, isn't it? Really, I suppose it's the team didn't defend well with De Ligt and Martinez against Tottenham, and also against Porto. We conceded 6 goals, didn't we, in 2 games? I don't necessarily think that's their fault, though. I think it's the setup of the team. So, but you do understand why you conceded 6 in 2 games. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. The manager might want to change things, which he did. It's a big call. Eriksen and Mainu in midfield is a weird one. We got a point, didn't he? So I think before the game, most United fans would have taken a point. So you've got to say, although it was unorthodox, it's worked. But long term, it's worked today to get a point. But long term, that's, what does that say about the players that he's probably insisted on buying, like Martinez and De Ligt, and Ugarte is a bit of a different one, which we're going to come to in a minute. But a lot of his players, if that's the right way of putting it, he's not picked today. He's thrown together quite a strange looking team. did get a point though, didn't it? So, you know, who's right, who's wrong, I don't know. If we get spanked today, not only probably is he going to go, but then he's going looking like a bit of a twonk because he's picked a team that was, to me, there for the taking. The Ugarte thing's interesting because there is talk that he's not really Ten Hag's man, that it was Ineos that, or the football infrastructure that really wanted him. And of course Ten Hag's got a say in it, but given the evidence we've got, it looks like he doesn't really fancy him, and he's, this is a game supposedly, I don't think he's ever as black and white as this, but supposedly that's going to save his job or cost him his job or whatever, and he's not picked him. It's a lot of money to spend on someone who then you just ease in, and for me there's echoes of Donny van de Beek, when Solskjaer clearly didn't want him, and it was bought over his head. He just never picked him. Didn't bring him on as a sub. He completely ostracised him. It's a complete waste of money. Ugarte is a different type of player, and he's cost more money in an area of the pitch that we really need to improve in. But as I said in one of my videos this week, it doesn't seem to matter who plays at the base of that midfield. We still get overrun, and even today at times, although we defended pretty well, but I still think we did get overrun at times in midfield. It doesn't seem to matter who's there, so I think that's a team structure problem. So yeah, the Ugarte thing is very interesting, and one to keep an eye on. In terms of the game itself, as I say, really, really boring. Villa had a good chance at the back post, which Dalot blocked. United hit the bar with Bruno, and we had a breakaway where Garnacho's pass is better than Bruno's one-on-one right at the end of the game, or near the end of the game. There's some long distance shots, but for United it was very much trying to hit them on the counter-attack. There's some nice little bits of interplay actually at times, but it was always in areas where it was never going to hurt Villa. It was nice and pretty to watch, but it wasn't really penetrative or going anywhere. Individual players, I thought, as most people have said, Jonny Evans was immense today. Hard not to like Jonny Evans. I mean, real good ambassador for the club. Obviously grew up at United, gone away and had another career basically elsewhere and done well. Won the FA Cup with Leicester and come back in unorthodox fashion, and I think it's quite indicative of where the club's at, that we've got a player of his age and his profile shepherding the defence to a clean sheet today. But just a class act. Gets United, loves United through and through, and has been exemplary since he's come back to the club. So very good performance from him. On the other side of the coin, I'd say Xerxes, when he came on, was shocking. No impact in the game whatsoever. Whenever the ball was near him, he messed things up. Difficult for a young player, I think, to come into this team, because as a young player who's not played at this level, you need players around you who are going to support your development. You need to walk into a harmonious camp. You need to walk into a stable ship. And it's just drama and trauma everywhere at United. And for a young player who's not made it yet, I think that's very difficult to come into. And I don't think there's many brilliant role models around that are going to help him through that sort of transition into a big club like United. And that then puts pressure on you. And when you play with pressure, some players can handle it, some players can't. He just looks lost. And I think it's probably starting to take its toll a little bit on Mainoo as well, actually, because I've noticed his performances of late haven't been to the standard that they were before. But again, he's a young lad who's, you're hoping that players around him are going to help him with his development, but they're not, are they? Because these players, I think, are all in survival mode. Some of them are selfish, some of them are only in it for themselves, others are just not good enough. And then you've got some who are a bit of both of those. It's not ideal for a young kid to be a part of. takes a special kind of temperament to be able to deal with that. But Xerxes looks lost at the moment. Bruno was wasteful. Not great really from Bruno today again, but he's still our most dangerous player. He hits the bar with a free kick on the counter attack. It was him that would have been through if Garnacho had found the pass. So, yeah, he wasn't great, but he's still probably our most threatening player going forward. But it's moments again, isn't it? This is why there's a problem for United over the last few years. It's that we play football that requires big players like Bruno to be in form, because we need them for those moments. But what about when those players are going through a difficult time? You need a structure you can then fall back on, where the team has a clear way of playing, a clear identity, and a clear way of particularly going forward, breaking teams down, so you're not reliant on that player. But we are reliant on that player because we haven't got any of that other stuff I just mentioned. We haven't got that structure. We haven't got that style of play. You don't know what you're going to get from one week to the next with United. They don't look like a very well coached team, I have to say. We've picked up 10 yellow cards in the last two league games, and obviously Bruno got a red, but it was rescinded. But I think that would have been a yellow if it hadn't been a red. So you count that as 11 yellow cards in 2 games, 6 against Tottenham if you count Bruno's as a yellow, and 5 today. I feel like that's quite high. It's half the team are booked. I don't know if that points to a little bit of frustration, a little bit of ill discipline. I don't mind if players are getting booked because they're aggressive, and they're not taking any crap from people. I like that, so I think we miss a bit of that. I think we miss a bit of devilment, to be honest with you, as well. But that's not. It's just petulant. It's just like, oh, someone's gone past. I'll just hold your shirt. So I'm just going to take a booking. Or, I mean, Mainoo's today was ridiculous. He shouldn't have been booked. But it's never nailing players. It's all like, as I say quite petulant bookings that we're picking up. The whole thing just looks, it's flat. I mean, we had the chaos of Thursday, and then today was very, very flat. Very different type of feel to it. So ultimately then, begs the question, what's going to happen in the next few days? Are they going to take action? Are they going to move Ten Hag on? Are they going to sack him, as I said in my video earlier on today? I absolutely think he should be sacked. I don't know. I don't think if you put me on the spot, I'd probably say I don't think they will sack him. For lack of really knowing what to do next. It depends what they were thinking, as I said before. It depends what they're thinking before today and before Porto. If he was on the precipice, then those 2 games against Porto and today, whilst not being a disaster, won't have given them enough food for thought to say, oh, actually, we better back him. There's something here we can get behind. It hasn't changed anything. We all know that in a few weeks' time, if he stays, we'll be back here again when another crisis bubbles up and we've thrown away a 2-0 lead, or we've been spanked at home by someone, or whatever. The typical things that happen under Erik Ten Hag will happen again, because there's no reason to think that they won't. And if you look at what we've already seen, we've got 8 points from 7 games. We've scored 5 goals. Today there was no structure of attacking play at all. He's not picking the players that he's bought and that the club's bought, obviously in Ugarte. I don't think we've really had a tough run of fixtures. You look at those first 7 games, I think you'd be looking at trying to get more than 8 points from those games. That's really quite a poor return, whoever we played. But these aren't difficult fixtures, really. Well, no, I'm sorry. I'll reframe that. They're not difficult fixtures. They're not perilous fixtures. They're not acid test fixtures. We played Liverpool, but we played them at home. We played Tottenham, but we played them at home. Villa are a decent team, but they're not Arsenal, Man City, etc. We haven't played Newcastle away. We haven't played Arsenal away. We haven't played Man City away. We haven't played Chelsea away. We haven't had those typically notoriously difficult 50-50 not even 50-50 games, 70-30 games in the other team's advantage. We haven't had any of those games, and we've got 8 points. We scraped past Fulham, so you could argue we were a little bit unlucky against Brighton, but the most we deserved against Brighton was probably a point, and we scraped past Fulham. So I don't think we've been hard done to with the points we've got. If anything, we might be a touch lucky. I mean, that's really bad. It's a really bad return. So I don't know. I don't know what they'll do. But just keep in mind as well, though, that I know it's not the same people calling the shots now. But when Mourinho was sacked, it was in the international break, but it wasn't on the Monday. It was on the Tuesday. So I'm not necessarily thinking it will, if they are going to sack him and they don't sack him tomorrow, they're not going to do it. I think it could be any time in the next few days. They were all there today, weren't they? Sir Jim and Brailsford and Ashworth and Barada and Wilcox and Fergie was there, of course. I don't think they'd have made much of that performance. But as I say, it depends what they were thinking before that. On a lighter note, how much did that ref love his moment in the sunshine? What an absolute job's worth while they were sorting out the VAR thing. Like Carragher said, could they not have just played the last few minutes with, like, I don't know, without it, or without that mechanism they were trying to sort out? He absolutely revelled in that. You could see it. But that's, of course, a complete aside. What happens next? It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Watch this space. I'll be checking my phone regularly. Glazers out.